Hi, welcome to my my first video, take two. This is on adjusting and setting up your Hudy Tire Truer to grind tires that are cylinders and not cones. When you get your Hudy Tire Truer brand new, there's a little label that sits down here that said to adjust the ground plane prior to using. And what the ground plane in Hudy speak is setting up the shaft for the drum here and this shaft that holds the tire to be parallel, so that the diameter of the tire here and the tire here are equal, so that the tire is not a cone. I set this one up, and we're going to try to take it out of here and set it up on my dial calipers, or my digital calipers, and we're going to slowly open the jaws up, and you can see it drops through, and the outside end of the tire is larger than the inside end of the tire, so you can see that they're not parallel. So to adjust this ground plane, Hudy gives you a really kind of crude adjustment. You're basically moving this block right here in and out. And what that does is this end of the swinging support is fixed, and so you're taking and swinging the axle that supports the tire in and out. And so what you're doing is, if the tire is large on the outside edge, you have to move this in order to grind more off the outside edge than the inside edge, and then vice versa. If it's larger on the inside than the outside, then you have to bring the outside out in order to do that. So that the adjustment is made with a tiny little screw, an M4 cap screw, and it's right here on the base of the tire truer. Now the problem with this particular adjustment is, once you loosen this screw, whatever adjustment you had before is lost. There's no way of retaining that and just moving slightly from that position over. So every time you loosen this screw, whatever adjustment you had is gone. You're starting over from scratch. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a really easy way of doing this using common tools that you'll find most like our racers would have, or they can get really easily to make this adjustment. I'm going to put this piece of tape back on. I put this tape on whenever I do these adjustments to keep the tire dust and everything else from getting all over my workbench. And after I'm done, I just remove it, and we're just set it back in the case of the Hudy Tire Truer. So the first step we have when we set up this thing is to move this, I call it the spike of death. Just get this thing out of the way. You even see that I've removed the needle because we're going to be working in this area, and this particular thing is just there to trim the width of the tires and has nothing to do with this adjustment at all. Right. The second thing we want to do is make sure that the distance from the front face of this block, or this end frame, to the front face of the base plate is the same as from the front face of this block to the face plate, or the face of this base plate. Okay, and what that does is that's going to be setting up the axis of the drum to be square to the frame. That gets at least a good starting point with respect to the adjustment that Hudy has given you here. All right, so once we get that set up and it's the same dimension, I measure in both sides to verify that it is, and it's snugged. You can remove the belts here, and this should have a little bit of end play and spin freely. That way you're not loading up your bearings when you're running it. Nothing ruins the life of the bearings more than loading them things up. Okay, so now the thing's going to be spinning freely, and we ground this tire, and we noticed that when we did our little measurement here for parallelism, that the outside edge is fat. Okay, so now we're going to be using common tools to do this adjustment. I got a small little C-clamp, a 1-inch C-clamp, very easily found, or you can go to another route and use a vice grip, kind of like these. They don't have the teeth on them. They nice flat face. You wrap around the thing and clamp. Work really well. But we're going to use the C-clamp for today. All right. The other thing that we've got to do in order to make this adjustment is we've got to have some Allen wrenches. Now, all the M4 cap screws that are in this machine use a 3mm hex Allen wrench driver in order to rotate them. So we're going to take that thing, get out of our kit, and then another one we're going to take is this big old fat 5mm one here. We'll need that, and I'll show you why in a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a reference point, right, so that when we move this block, all right, we'll at least know where we were when we started. All right, that's the key. Once you establish a point, and you know you have to move one way or the other, you can do it with this reference point. So now that this thing's grinding fat, we know that we want to move this this block and this end of the axle in towards the drum. That gives us a good place to start. I'm going to take this little piece and I'm going to clamp it right here with a C-clamp. This might be kind of awkward. I'm going to disconnect the leads here, flip it up on its side. I need 3 arms to do this, but we'll at least give it a try with 2. Snug it down. Make sure that's good. Yeah, not too bad. Looks pretty good. Now set it up on the case. Set it level. Make sure that's good and snug. Now that's sitting there, we've got a reference point. We can loosen that screw up from under on the bottom side, and we'll at least know where we were when we started. Okay. Now, how are we going to move it? Well, I'd like to do things accurately and precisely, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some feeler gauges. These are the old school feeler gauges that used for setting the valve clearance in your car, or you can use them to set the points back in the days when they used to have points and distributors. I'm aging myself. And maybe if you don't have any other tool, you can use them to set spark plug gap. But these are what they call a feeler gauge. You can find these at auto parts stores, or maybe even a Harbor Freight or someplace like that. And I'll pull one out of here, 5,000. Now, this is a pretty big, massive bundle of shims here. So I'm going to just take this thing and loosen this nut up and get the shims out of this little case holder here and set them loose on the bench. You kind of try to keep them in order. There goes one on the floor. Kind of try to keep them in order, then it's a little bit easier to set them back in place. Okay, so now I've got this. Now I've got this shim. I'm going to place it in here. Ooh, see, it's too tight. So what we've got to do is we've got to flip this thing over. Right, we're going to loosen this screw up underneath here. That's that screw I pointed out before. I'm going to take this shim and I'm going to stick it in between the block and the Allen wrench. And do this with pull it back with your finger or your thumb. It's another reason why that spike of death has to be out of the way. And then just give it a snug. Okay, now that's good and tight. And then and this doesn't move, so leave it right where it is. Okay, now we've got that thing snug down. Let's tighten it so it doesn't move anymore. All right, and then we'll put this tire back on. Okay, it's sitting back on, and we'll set it right back up in here. Right now we've got our 5,000s, got our hook this back up here. Hook this back up here. I'm going to turn this on. It's centered in the camera. And I'm going to back this thing out. Now our feed screw is completely loose now, and it's not grinding, so we're going to back this out just a little bit. So you hear the tone change of the motor. There, you can hear it just changes slightly. Then we're going to take a nice cut out of there and just let it grind out. And it's grinding out, grinding out, grinding out. And once it finishes, you'll see that the motor starts to speed back up. And when you drive this in and lift it off, the tone doesn't change, so you know you've got it pretty much ground off. Turn off our power supply. Rotate this around until we can find the set screw. And then pull that off. And we're going to set this back in here. And we'll see how it drops out. And it drops right straight through. Try it again. There we go. There. Now, once we get to the point where you're not really sure which end is dropping out and which end isn't, we just lightly set that in the jaws of the caliper. And you can take and hold this up to a bright light, and you can see a sliver of light right between the rubber and the jaw there, and the rubber and the jaw there. I haven't even thought about attempting this with the camera, but we could certainly give it a try someday and show you what it looks like. But then you hold it up to the light, and then you slowly squeeze this in thousands at a time, so you just see a little bit of friction, and all the sliver of light's gone. And that's the measurement that you use when you make your Hudy chart and set up your dial down here. Okay, so now we've got that thing set. We've got it tight. We've got the parallelism taken out of it. I'm sorry, that we put the parallelism in it. We've taken the cone out of it, and now I'm going to just loosen this little screw up with the clamp up here and set it down, and we're done. Now, if you've gone too far, say you added 5 and you went too far in, well, you know it takes less than 5 to accomplish the task. So you put a 4 or a 3, and you bring it up against that, and you've always got that point clamp there that hasn't moved, so you at least know where you started. All right, that's the key right there. Now, when I do this for my production use, if a customer sends me a machine, I have a little bit of a different setup. I have something that clamps on the frame of the tire truer, and then slide it right over, slide it down, clamp it in place, and then bring this micrometer stop up against it, and then we can make the adjustments that way. But that's a special tool that I had to make, and it's something that I wouldn't expect everybody to have. And so this method that I showed you is a simple way of doing it that's predictable and precise, and uses common tools. Okay, thank you very much for watching my video, and be sure to leave some comments in the comments section. Thank you very much.